Unbelievable how stupid some people can be. Let's just run the same playbook. Fall for it every time. All right, stay tuned. I'm going to get some coffee. Let me give you a little bit of music. Let it roll. All right. Let's go. Ooh, that water's not new. Hi, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide. Look, am I the only one who feels like I'm in a time machine and I've been like transported back to either 2017 or 2017 or 2019? This is the same playbook, including the very same people. I'm not all of them. There are some new people, of course. There is always going to be. That's just how Washington works. But media and everything. Like, how could I be standing here observing this Signal Gate story? Which, by the way, Harry, you're such a hack. And I'm talking to Harry Enton. You're such a hack, bro. How many stupid little video segments did you do where you went over Biden and you went over Harris and the rest of them, and you never called one thing, not about Hunter Biden's laptop, not about the pardons, nothing. I looked. You never called one of those stories a scandal. Not one. But immediately Signalgate is a scandal. You are such a freaking low-life hack. It's not even funny. And your hair looks stupid, and you speak like you're in a Leave It to Beaver episode, and everyone knows it's fake. All right? So G. Willigers, stuff it up your ass. All right? Number two, how could nobody? And I think I'm going to start to see some people soon. I wasn't watching, but I hear like finally like, oh no, Rich, and I'm not going to give them credit yet until I look at the video, but some people are starting to get a clue. You know why? You know why this happened? Because, oh my God, hold on. Come on. It's Laura. You know what she's asking me, because I left her at the DMV with my son. I mean, time moves by so quickly, DMV, but we'll get back to that. You know why so many of these people are like stunned and taken back by who's saying what? Because some of these so-called like influencers and some of these, these like Trump allies, whatever you want to call them, right? They get a little notoriety after Donald Trump wins, and they think they're going to like get cozy with Trump circles, who then in turn, as being members of the White House, get cozy with other senators who kiss their ass because they don't want to be primaried, right? And then they're like stunned when these turn out to be betrayers and traitors that you cannot trust. Like, oh my God, who thought Senator Cassidy was a piece of shit? I don't know. Anyone who watches this show, who thought Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins would stab you in the back? I don't know. Anyone who watches this show, who thought, my God, that Tom Cotton is a neocon? I don't know. Anybody who watches this show, like kind of laughable at this point. After yesterday's show, which blew up, I fielded phone calls from all over the place about, well, there was two groups of people. One who were like, yo, hell yeah. Hell yeah. By the way, can I get you on the show? Can I get you here? And I did John Fredericks because he's my boy. I've known John for years. Outside of like, personal thoughts and things, he's a good guy. John and I are friends. So I jumped on his show this morning, even though I was at the DMV with my son. And, jumped on the call and it was cool. So we had a conversation about, because he's been around long enough. He understands this. But it really is this part of the same problem, which is that Republicans are never going to really, quote, let's put them in air quotes, win. Okay. Republicans are never going to win if they continue to have this disadvantage of betrayers or traitors in their ranks. And I know that's a bold word, but there really is nothing else to call them. All right. These aren't principled people who are really concerned. You're going to love these clips. Concerned about Signalgate. All right. They don't care. They're full of shit. You're totally full of shit. They've been planning a story for weeks now. They're trying to land any glove they can because they really can't. They couldn't figure out where to go after the election. They were like, this isn't going to work. That's not going to work. So we have to go in a different direction. And they circled back to the same playbook, which they used during the Russia collusion hoax. And they used during the Vindman BS story, which, by the way, is the same paper and the same journalist. I mean, you got to be kidding me, folks. You've got to be kidding me. They circled back to it because that's all they have. And this time, the Trump and his allies were just not prepared for it. I don't have to go back and clip all of the episodes. How many times did Sean Parnell, who's now the Deputy Assistant Secretary, how many times did we tell you that Pete Hegseth is, along with RFK, by the way, he's next. Pete Hegseth is the target. Why? Because Mike Waltz is a rhino piece of shit. All right? He's replaceable. He's an empty suit. If he takes the fall and Trump fires him, so what? Right? They'll just replace him with another rhino. And this is, I got to tell you, this is bothering me. What I'm seeing, because it gives me a little bit of an indication that there's people around Trump that are problematic. And I told you that about the messaging and that it's wrong. And what do I mean it's problematic? Look, Trump won the election. His agenda won the election. It was overwhelmingly the victor against all odds. And yes, it is a majority. Look at how much of an advantage they need in order to get the guy down to 50% or 49.8, whatever. They need Wall Street on their side. They need every media outlet on their side. They need to steal your taxpayer money, taxpayer dollars, to then give to these entities so they can then wage a mass information warfare on your mind, all right, in order to get Trump to 50. You get what I'm saying? Like, against all odds and all money and all institutional, structural, and cultural advantage, they still can't stop the guy from hitting 50. His agenda is clearly popular. He is more popular than he's ever been, even though he's getting wedged down. The White House, your message sucks. It sucks. All right. And I will continue to tell everybody that because it's true. You better get Steve Bannon in there or something. I don't know who it, you want to, I don't want to go to DC. I don't want to. So don't even think about it. Like, but you better get Steve Bannon in there or somebody who understands the moment, because you don't have that right now. So you didn't see this coming at all. This is the Michael Flynn playbook, guys. This is the Michael Flynn playbook. It's just tweaked a little bit. How can you not see this? And I'm going to show you. Look, by the way, before we go over the article, and I'll probably bring it back up over and over again, but either I'm right or ABC News is an honest broker all of a sudden. Somebody has to go down. Trump allies take aim at Mike Waltz. He's the national security advisor. Originally, it was reported that he was the one who did this. Now, all of a sudden, it's Pete Hegseth. Don't you see what they did here? They're going after Pete, not Mike Waltz. And Mike Waltz is doing what? Defending Alex Wong. Biden holdovers. I mean, you got to be kidding me. And Republicans will never be able to win as long as they have this disadvantage. Democrats don't have betrayers in their ranks. Full stop. Period. They don't have them. That's why it's always so hard for these messages to break through. It looks really bad for people who aren't politicos or are just looking from a bird's eye view. It looks really bad when they see members of someone's own party also criticizing them or saying they're concerned or being what really the some of the greater public doesn't understand. They're part of the blob. They're part of the scam. They're part of the betrayers. And they don't know that. Right? So, I mean, my God, this whole encounter with CNN right here, this looks like Russiagate over and over. I mean, again, you'll even see who do they go after? The same senators over and over. If, and that's a big if, because often they're just in it to begin with. But if by some way these senators don't get on board, they'll find out they know their pressure points. And then all of a sudden, those senators start doing those so-called Republican senators, and they're not Republicans. They don't, if you're a Republican watching the show, they do not share your views. They are totally fake and inauthentic. They don't care at all about you or the Republican views and values. They don't care anything about that. They don't care about the direction of the country. Hell, this one I'm about to show you. Change how the state elects senators through the state at-large district to a Democrat, and through, ultimately, they will have thrown the Senate to a Democrat, even though it is a red state who lives off of energy, oil, specifically oil. But she doesn't care. All she cared about was making sure that she had rigged the system and change it all so she could survive a primary because her own party can't stand her. She wins by a few chunks of the Rhino vote, a bunch of other Republicans who say, oh, I might as well vote for her, and some Democrats who know they can't win in this state, so they end up just going for the next best option. And that's how Lisa Murkowski is still sitting on Capitol Hill right now. Here's CNN chasing her down.
Worried about everybody and how they have handled this signal controversy.
Do you think he should?
It's really concerning.
Should he resign?
I think we're going to figure out. It appears that Mr. Walz has accepted fault for it. I don't know.
Yeah, but Hegseth had all those battle plans he discussed. And
right to Hegseth.
Does it concern me?
Right to Hegseth. Right to Hegseth. You see that? She pivots to covering Walz's ass. You see that? She pivots to covering Walz, and CNN goes right for Pete Hegseth. And now the conversation is going to talk about Pete.
Hell yes.
Hell yes. Oh,
and
she's a
other
badass
Republicans
all of a
also
sudden.
have some-
Lisa Murkowski's a badass all of a sudden. Hell yeah. Give me a break. It's so next in line. Well, she doesn't look very concerned, Susan Collins. She wasn't concerned a couple of days ago. And then they do what they always do. Why on earth would you poll the state of Maine right now? Okay. So this is a hack polling firm that Nate Silver, the fraud, gives an A to, by the way, on his fake pollster scorecard. Here's public policy polling, one of the most notoriously corrupt, and what Nate himself, until, he became a big thing. He once called them dubious and untrustworthy, but now all of a sudden they have an A on his pollster scorecard, even though they never get anything right. Never. It's like a remarkable feat that this pollster is almost always wrong. Now suddenly we're going to poll Maine. Let me see. Can I squint and see what day this poll was conducted? When was this poll released? March 25th, 2 days ago. At the time, Senator Collins wasn't concerned at all. When was this poll conducted? March 20th and March 21st. First and foremost, public policy polling is one of the worst polls ever. Secondly, their track record in Maine is even more egregious than their overall track record. So is this someone who should even be polling Maine? Public policy polling is the firm that Democrats run to when they want to push out a push poll, and they want it to be fudged and make it look like it was a legitimately conducted poll. Everybody in the industry knows it. Why we still take this seriously in the media industry is incredible. Everybody knows public policy polling is a push poll. Everybody knows they push people towards responses that they want. Everyone knows that they word questions in a certain way that is not credible. And everybody knows that they push prompts before the question that is designed to elicit a certain response to that question, and then do not put it on the public release. You understand what I'm telling you? Prompts that they deliver to the people for the questions, before the questions, are not put on their public releases so you don't see them. The only way you would know about it is if somebody told you and gave you an internal document, or you were polled yourself by public policy polling, and then you would later look at their poll that was released publicly, and you would say, wait a minute, there was an entire prompt that was delivered before the question, and that's not on this. It's not even on their questionnaire that they release. Isn't that weird? Right, because everybody knows this. Everyone in the industry knows this. They are not a credible poll. They are the go-to Democratic hippies firm polling outfit. That is what they are. In fact, they shouldn't even be on Real Clear Politics. I don't know why the hell they are. Real Clear Politics used to put a D next to them. They need to put an X next to them. Just forget what they do. All of a sudden, Susan Collins' approval rating is 24%. By the way, I seem to remember something similar happening with Susan Collins before the Kavanaugh hearing. And I seem to remember a certain pollster who did it. And I seem to remember it was the same damn pollster. And then she was down. Oh my God, the Kavanaugh confirmation is going to cost her her seat. She didn't lead in a single poll, including this one, going into the 2020 election. And she won comfortably. Her approval, according to this fake push poll from a Democratic push firm, is 24%, with 61% of voters disapproving of her. She faces strong opposition, strong disapproval from both Harris and Trump. And by the way, Harris is twice as popular as Trump, even though he's underwater here. Trump is unpopular too, with 44% of voters approving of him to 52% who disapprove of him. A big part of Collins' problem is that when it comes to Trump, her approach is just antagonizing everyone. 81% of Harris voters think she votes with Trump too often, and 73% of Trump voters think she doesn't vote with Trump enough. Only 10% thinks that she's striking the right balance. Why would they write that in their first paragraph? This is intended to tell Susan Collins that her attempt to walk the tightrope is not working, and that she needs to abandon Trump in her too blue state in order to survive her next reelection. This is a push poll. This is narrative polling at its worst. It was conducted right, look at the date, the 20 to the 21st. Why shouldn't this strike? Like, immediately, this should tell you that they knew this story was in its works. They knew this story was coming. They knew the tactics they were going to use for this story, and they knew exactly which senators they would need to target to make it into a scandal. They conducted this poll almost like they talked to Goldberg, Jeffrey Goldberg himself, over at The Atlantic. You find this what, a freaking coincidence? If you find this just coincidental, you're an idiot. You are naive or a simpleton or something. I'm sorry. I told you it's going to be a very different People's Pundit from this point on. You're a stupid person. I mean, I don't know. Or maybe you are on strong prescription drug medications on a daily basis. Like, I don't know what other explanation there is, but it's not the right one. The right one is, this is a textbook scam. This is Cheryl Atkinson's The Smear in real time. Where's Don? Man, what was that? What was that term, that phrase Nancy Pelosi used to use to explain? I mean, she openly talked about how they get the media to do this. I can't remember. She has a name for it. She had a name for it. She said it out loud. This is a very old act in their playbook, man. Very old. Same people, same actors and push polling firms and same journalists. And by the way, look at this. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Russiagate, Vindman collusion, Vindman and the fake transcript story, the fake story about threatening to send Rudy Giuliani to crawl up their ass and withhold money if they don't investigate Joe Biden and his son. Zelensky asked for Rudy Giuliani, man. Which, by the way, goes to show you Zelensky himself was probably in on it. But anyway, who was the guy who was behind Russiagate, or a huge figure in the Russiagate hoax? He served actually as a prosecutor in the Trump impeachment over the Vindman hoax. And by the way, well, I'm going to save that because that's relevant to what he says. I mean, the hypocrisy is unbelievable.
Notable to me also
There
about
he
this
is.
is just the complete deflection of responsibility from the very top down. You've got Donald Trump saying, oh, it wasn't me. I don't know anything about this. Well, why should I know anything about this? I'm only the commander in chief. Why are you bringing Hegseth into this? And Hegseth is saying, there were no war plans. And you've got Tulsi Gabbard saying, was I on this text chat? And then later, I have no idea where I was during these conversations. I could have been in any country. You've got Radcliffe, the head of the CIA.
Let me ask you a question, Adam. Where were you when your friend Mr. Buck was injecting young and black and brown men with methamphetamines and other illegal drugs to violate them? He's now sitting in jail. Have you been? Where were you? This is a guy who routinely you hung out with. I mean, he was a huge donor and friend. You called him a friend, a personal and good friend. Where were you when Mr. Buck was injecting young, vulnerable black and brown men with drugs so he could rape them when they weren't cognitive of what was going on? Nobody asked this guy this. Could you imagine if there was a Republican senator whose good friend was caught doing this like on a weekend basis? Like, oh, we're going to go to Ed Buck's house. What are we doing? What are we doing tonight? What kind of flavor we got tonight? Asian, Hispanic, black? What flavors are on the menu tonight? Could you imagine if this was a Republican? Oh my God. Let alone stay in the U.S. Senate. It would have never been able to run for the U.S. Senate. This guy's something else. Watch. This is great. This is just brilliant. It's brilliant. He's going to go on and on about responsibility and classified information. This is just unbelievably brilliant.
Saying, I didn't transmit classified information. No, somebody else did.
This is a man who would get up in the middle of classified hearings, and he did it to Don Jr. I remember it like it was yesterday. Gets up to go to the bathroom in the middle of a classified hearing and leaks screenshot cell phone photos of the WikiLeaks, the classified information to try to suggest, and CNN didn't verify anything at all, and they ran with an incorrect story, right? To basically try to say that make it look like Don Jr. had knowledge, predetermined knowledge, existing knowledge of that the WikiLeaks drops are coming. Like Don Jr. was coordinating with Julian Assange and people from WikiLeaks, and that he knew he had beforehand knowledge of that. They ran with this story so fast, thinking, oh my God, he went to the bathroom and leaked us these docs. Look at the testimony, compare it next to the documents. It turns out that, of course, WikiLeaks themselves, days before, almost a week before, if I remember correctly, had tweeted that they had those documents and they were going to leak them out. This guy runs to the bathroom saying he has to take a piss, folks, and takes pictures on his phone and sends it to CNN, who then runs with it and gets, you would say they would be humiliated, but they're not. They weren't humiliated at all. They didn't retract the story. They issued a correction, which eliminates the entire point of the story, yet refused to take the story down. The correct answer was, oh my God, we're stupid and we didn't check the dates, so we're just going to go ahead and retract it with an apology to our readers, our viewers, and everybody else who was involved in the story. But no, they did not do that. They issued a correction to say, actually, WikiLeaks tweeted at this time, and like without other further clarification, as if that didn't discount the entire purpose of the story. He did this constantly. Constantly. And then he called for Devin Nunes to step down for the House. I mean, you got to be joking. Which he did, which is textbook Republican stupidity. Okay, yeah, I'll step back. The pressure's too great. Who cares? Who cares? The correct answer is no, I'm not stepping down. Why? Go your mother. That's the answer. That is the correct answer. And by the way, Donald Trump's response about the smear that was done by neocon senators on J.D. Vance, that's how you know. Again, it's all the same people, folks. It's all the same people. We're just missing Richard Burr because he got caught insider trading and he's not here anymore. All the same people who are concerned. They were concerned about the Russia hoax and praised Robert Mueller. They were concerned about Vindman's leak, not Eric Charamella leaking classified information, destroying the office of the presidency in doing so, because the president must know that he is speaking to another leader in complete confidence without these holdovers leaking something that is going to look bad for them. They didn't even do that during the Nixon era, folks. They didn't even go that far under Richard Nixon. If you thought Nixon spoke badly, try checking out the transcripts and the wires from Johnson. My God, this only happens to Republicans. And they fall for it every single time. Same senators, same bad actors. Whoops, let's point over here. Got me. Forgot. Camera's reversed. Well, it's not reversed, actually. That's the thing. It's actually, this is my left hand. You see it as my right, but that's the mirrored image of the camera. This guy, Eric Swalwell, gets trotted out. He's talking about how concerned he is about, the potential for being compromised. This is a guy who, a Chinese spy who cheated on his wife with a Chinese spy while he was sitting as a high-ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. I mean, all of this would be a little bit less unserious, a little bit, less unserious if it wasn't these people, and some of them, like Shifty Schiff over here, Shifty Schiff, are playing musical chairs. And of course, you point that out, and you point out, why are we even bothered with Pete when Goldberg himself cannot produce the text messages? He cannot produce the transcripts of the messages that support the claim in the story. Why are we even talking about Hegseth when the central story initially anyway surrounded Mike Walls? And if you point that out, you are all of a sudden a Trump ally, according to NBC News. All right. And I want to read this so you can see again. I mean, you got to be kidding me. It maybe doesn't sound familiar to you if you just came on the political scene. Seriously. Maybe you weren't around for the first Trump administration, so you don't remember this. Somebody has to go down. Trump allies take aim at Michael Waltz. First of all, those are not Trump allies. Somebody has to go down. A real Trump ally wouldn't say that at all. A real Trump ally would say nobody has to go down. We're not getting rid of any of our people over this scam bullshit anymore. You know what? Why didn't I invite Kurt Schlichter on today? I should have brought him on. He seems to be one of the few who understand. We've seen this story before. We have heard all of this before. This is not a new movie. This is not even a sequel. This is not even the third part. They have been doing this forever. This is textbook Blob. In a particularly rough week for the Trump administration. By the way, the YouGov poll just has almost as close as us. The only difference is the last time we polled Trump's approval, he was at 51 instead of 48. But they're fully online panel, and that's why that's happening to them. But they have Trump +2, 48, 46. How rough could it be? A number of president's allies are calling for accountability after military plans were inadvertently shared with a journalist. Again, you are not an ally of the president if you are calling for accountability. Who are these allies? Let's find out, shall we? And I'm going to show you the response. I'm going to show you the response to this attack on Vance in a second. A growing number of Donald Trump's allies are calling on the president to fire his national security advisor, Michael Waltz, to try to mitigate the political fallout from revelations that the nation's top defense officials discussed sensitive military operations in a commercial app and inadvertently included a journalist in their chat group. Folks, right there, first paragraph, bullshit. There is zero chance that one of the most anti-Trump journalists in this, he's not even a journalist. He's a fucking smear merchant and a serial liar. Jeffrey Goldberg has so much blood on his hands. The Atlantic, the Frums, all of them. They have so much blood on their hands from starting an illegal war without justification that ended up in hundreds of thousands, if not a million or more, human souls taken and human bodies maimed. Okay, these are the worst people on planet Earth. They're horrible people, and they have never apologized for it. They will never apologize. They don't care. They sleep just fine at night. They don't care about American dead soldiers. They don't care about Iraqi kids. They don't care about anything except for their own ambition, their own power, and their own prosperity. That's all they give a shit about. According to screenshots published by The Atlantic, a Signal user named Michael Waltz initially invited Jeffrey Goldberg, the magazine's editor-in-chief, into the conversation on the app Signal. All right, and again, what really is being floated around here is that somebody took his thing, somebody took his device, somebody he claims to defend and trust, and may have added somebody that should not even be in his contact list. And Michael Waltz himself said he did not have him in his contact list. So either Waltz just got played and is a fool. I told you guys, listen, and this is coming from me, all right? There are very few Sean Parnells out there. There are very few Pete Hegseths out there. Often, I don't care if they're Green Berets or not, you better watch these former veterans who claim to be so-called conservatives and, Trumpy as hell. You got to watch them. It's just true. They're institution bred. They're military institution bred. They don't want to see the military in the light that the military really should be seen in. Maybe it's easier for me because the military I served in is 25 years dead now. Almost a quarter of a century. Is not the same military that I remember. And it was even being changed when I was in there. And I remember so many of my mentors and NCOs just hate it to death. And that was the beginning of it all. Relaxin' Jackson, let's give these guys stress cards. We don't get stress cards here over at Benning, which we're not allowed to call Benning anymore, right? The group, according to The Atlantic, appears to have included Vice President J.D. Vance, several other members of the cabinet involved in national security issues, Trump Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. Some of the people were identified only by their initials. Again, NBC News here is running with this, even though, and who is the author again here? I thought there was an author, not just, yeah, there is, right? Jonathan Allen, Matt Dixon, and Catherine Doyle. None of them have seen Goldberg's messages. None of them have seen it. In fact, the only people that we know of that are claiming, the only people that are, go get them and I'll open them for you. The only people that are claiming to have seen this or know of this or trust this information are Democrats or Trump haters. It really hasn't been established that what Goldberg claimed is in those messages is in those messages. I mean, he had an absolute meltdown the other day on a liberal show when he was asked to produce those messages. Like, why can't you just release those messages and show us all? He wouldn't do it. I don't know if something's wrong with Twitter or what, but I was trying to get you that. Anyway, moving on. All right. That on Wednesday, however, Trump was less definitive about his aides, insisted none of the information about the strikes against Yemeni Houthis, a group of United States designated foreign terrorist organization, was classified when then Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared it with a group. Is it for Sabrina or is it for you? Sabrina. Okay, we'll see, because I think you escaped her. She was supposed to be watching you. And I think you escaped her to come get a cookie yourself. That's what I think. I knew it. Go back to your sister. I knew it. You can't fool Daddy. You can't fool him. All right. All right. So anyway, on Wednesday, after claiming that Trump was less definitive, that's what I've heard. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's the right answer if you're Trump, by the way. You have to ask the various people involved. I really don't know. Trump replied when the reporters asked him about it. The Atlantic's reporting quoted from messages in which Hegseth specified types of U.S. military aircraft and the timing of recent airstrikes. Listen, I got to just tell you, though, that and this is true, that there are a bunch of group chats made among people like this. And I'm not sure Mike Waltz should be a part of it, to be honest. But, you know, like Elon Musk had a chat made with Vivek Ramaswamy and Speaker Mike Johnson, right? There are these chats that are being made, and it's really very simple. They don't trust the permanent employees at the White House, at the National Security Agency, at the Pentagon, and you can't, because they have proven over and over again that they are not servants first. They are partisans first, and nothing is really safe or in confidence or classified in the federal government. It's filled with a bunch of blobs and liberals. And if you're trying to effectively run a government as a non-blob or non-liberal administration, you can't really do that without them stymieing you at every turn. It's why, honestly, the government's way too big and has to be demolished. Not cut back, demolished. Entire agencies have to go. I said this before the election. I don't know why, what part about this people didn't understand. You can't reform the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It needs to be demolished. Dillinger is no longer a threat, okay? There's no point to even have it around. They haven't produced one piece of evidence to suggest that they have ever thwarted a terror attack in the United States since 9/11. They pretend they have, and they claim there are all these unsung heroes, but there have been senators who looked into this. Rand Paul himself dug into this a lot during the revelations about metadata collection. They haven't produced any evidence because it doesn't exist. They didn't produce San Bernardino, even though they had the information. They didn't prevent it, even though they had the information. They didn't prevent the Pulse nightclub shooting, even though they not only had the information, they knew that the father was a rabid Clinton supporter and even knew people who volunteered for the Clinton campaign. They did not stop the Tsarnaev brothers from detonating 2 pressure cooker bombers at the Boston Marathon, even though the Russians, the big bad Russians, big bad Vladimir Putin, our favorite straw man, gave them all the information to do it. They don't do anything except for basic law enforcement functions and involving themselves in the partisan politics of our nation, which is not their mission, and they should go. You cannot reform the Drug Enforcement Agency. You cannot reform Maine Justice. But where, pray tell, in the U.S. Constitution does it establish a federal law enforcement entity? Nowhere. Our founders were terrified of standing armies and police state powers being exercised by the federal government. It was the central reason they believed that the not upper, but lowercase Constitution in Britain failed them. It was the central concern. It is the standing army and the use of police state power. That is why our Constitution could not hold up. And here we are today with the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the National Security Agency. All these entities do is make sure that anyone elected at the will of the sovereign American voter who will come in and implement radical change which is badly needed or the country is going to fail. All they do is prevent those people from being able to carry out the agenda that they were elected to carry out. That's their function now. Excuse me if I am skeptical when somebody says the NSA stops terror attacks. I don't believe it. I think it's bullshit. They're too busy. Well, I won't be that crude. Accessing your webcam, ladies. All right? Maybe their former girlfriends. I mean, that was in the Inspector General. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is what they do. And they play a game. They play a spy game that they like because they think it's fun. But they're not actually preventing anything. In fact, the entire CIA didn't prevent shit from the Russians when they were established. They really didn't prevent anything. They didn't do anything. They snuck a couple people across from East Berlin to West Berlin. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. Who gives a shit? So did Louis Armstrong. Not kidding. It's a real story. Check it out. But with questions about handling of personal information, continuous swirling congressional hearings and media outlets across the ideological spectrum, many Trump allies who requested anonymity to speak candidly, that's bullshit, say focusing on whether the material was classified is besides the point in a White House struggling to regain control of its message. That may be the only true thing in this entire report. That is a legal question, said a former senior Trump advisor who spoke on the condition of anonymity to remain in his good graces. We are talking about a political problem right now. You see the road they're already starting to pave? They need to put this on someone and clean it up that way, he said. The most obvious person to do that with is Walz. Folks, that's a former unnamed advisor. The head of their article is, somebody has to go down and Trump allies take aim at Michael Waltz. This is to make you think that Trump's allies are doing the wrong thing because they want the focus to be on Hegseth. But there actually aren't anyone here in the Trump White House saying this. This was a huge F-up. A Republican operative who was a major Trump backer and a military veteran said, using similar language, "It's unbelievable to me that there is the use of these kinds of devices used for something like this. Just an inexcusable mess all around." It was a F-up. The first and most simple way to address it is to just acknowledge it was an F-up. That's it. Conservative commentator Tommy Lahren wrote on X. Tommy Lahren is not a Trump ally. Tommy Lahren was a DeSantite during the primary. And she has been a MAGA betrayer for years. She's not even relevant to the movement or votes or winning elections. She's a freaking nobody. Tommy Lahren was like basically a wannabe Fox News influencer. And I say wannabe because nobody gives a shit about Fox News anymore. And Tommy Lahren couldn't even make it there. This is a joke. This is all unnamed sources. They make you think, if you read this and you read the description of who you think it is, okay? And by the way, Dave Portnoy was not always a Trump supporter. I don't know where they're coming from with this. But if you read the description of these people, you will see that they're making it out like that's like Sean Parnell or something. Of course it's not. A veteran, a major Trump backer. And then this guy is some former Trump senior advisor. Who? Chris? That's who you're making. Is this Chris? Give me a break. This whole article is a load of horseshit. The whole article is a load of horseshit. There is nothing real in that article, except for the post about Tommy and from Lahren and Portnoy. That's it. And again, David Portnoy is not a universal Trump ally. Not at all. In fact, he's constantly going after it with other people like him. It's a joke. It's a total joke. Give me a break. By the way, David Portnoy is more interested in the University of Michigan football team success than he is presidential politics and pizza. He loves pizza and weed. They're acting like this is some like John Mearsheimer or something. Give me a break. Unbelievable. All right, let's clean some of this stuff up. It's 2:45. I did want to get into something else because it's like, while all this crap is going on, I see Trump making inroads with people publicly that he wouldn't be. And I guess that's what all this is about now, isn't it? Right? You got to take the guy out. You can't take him out personally right now. He's not an obvious target. He is not. He is going to be too tough. He survived Mueller. He survived Vindman's fake prosecution. He survived the J6 fake impeachment attempt, which, by the way, Bill Cassidy, so-called Republican senator from Louisiana, Bill Cassidy, voted to convict him. Is that another Trump ally for the NBC News story? Give me a break. And it is obvious. This is how you know it's not a Trump ally. This is how you know. And someone who is a senior advisor to the president would know this because they know how Trump operates. They are doing this to avoid leaks from people like Alex Wong. That's what's going on here. So what did Alex Wong do? He found another way to get it out, didn't he? If it wasn't him, it was somebody else. I told you guys that Hegseth was the line for a reason. Look, who's the focus of this? How anyone can't see this is unbelievable to me. He barely made it through the confirmation. They fought tooth and nail over him for a reason. He had the hardest time. He had a harder time than Gabbard did in the end. Sean and I told you it was the line in the sand because he is a problem for them. He is one of theirs. And yet, he's MAGA. Why is it inappropriate to use the same words that they really use? This is how they view things. To them, Donald Trump is a class betrayer. Pete Hegseth is a military-industrial complex betrayer. He should be one of them. He should be more like Mike Waltz. But he's not. And he doesn't believe in their vision. He doesn't believe in their agenda. In fact, he's a convert, which is even worse. Like J.D. Vance, by the way, is a convert, which makes them target J.D. Vance. This is the correct response when you are, or you are, seeing this playbook. All right. You don't put out comments like you're concerned. This was a major F up. They tried to go and smear J.D. Vance the other day with the same shit. This is the correct way to handle it. I'm starting to think that Donald Trump Jr. is really the only one who really gets it outside of his dad. I mean, but his dad makes mistakes. I can tell you already, and I know this because I know things you guys don't know and haven't been reported. Donald Trump's gearing up to endorse a whole round of betraying shitheads, betraying neocons and rhinos for the midterm elections. He's being told all the wrong information again. And he's doing it by people who I may personally like them. But at this point, them giving this advice makes me have to doubt their commitment to the movement, like in their voters. Who are they really loyal to here? Who are they putting first? And it's going to happen all over again. So you understand, by the way, Pressler's coming on tomorrow. You understand concern from people like John Fredericks. Scott Pressler doesn't even want to do it anymore. And of course he's gonna. He broke his ass all yesterday, by the way. He was going to come on today, but he was so tired from the work he put in Wisconsin. He was like, man, I just need to get in the rest. And this happens. You burn out. You need some time. He's like, I don't want to come on there, and we reschedule. He's still doing it because he's a true believer. Do they deserve him? I don't think so. I really don't at this point. I don't think they deserve him. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but at this point, I'll be honest with you. In my mind, and like seeing where the future of the two-party system is going to go in this country, and the future of what both sides movements, where it's going to go. When it comes to the MAGA movement, I've already started to look beyond, and Donald Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance are clearly the two people who can carry this banner. Now, how successful they're going to be really remains to be seen, because his father And people surrounding his father refuse to recognize that these people are not good people. Now, if you're Trump, you're like, well, I have to work with them. And I get that. He's right about that. But you could also take your political capital and go scorched earth on all of them. And you could ruin them all. Wreck every single one of them. Not Thomas Massey. He's the least of your problems. And clean house. Why are you leaving these permanent employees there? Why was there ever a plan to leave them there? You make them be pencil pushers, and they're not allowed to see shit. Then maybe you wouldn't have the need for a Signal group chat. And by the way, the private sector probably has developed more secure systems than the federal government. The federal government stuff is notoriously insecure. All right. I mean, it's like, why aren't we using this department and that department? Well, first of all, you can't. They're not trustworthy. That's number one. Number two, it's probably an inferior product. Now, as I have heard it, and I don't know if it's true, Wired is more secure than Signal. All right. Plus, the problem with some of these, Signal was developed by a Google company, right? So the problem with some of them is that they can't be trusted either. So if the federal government comes to them and asks them to hand over their product, they've done it over and over. Apple did the same thing. So as I understand it, Wired is more secure. I could be behind on that. It's been a while. I'm not really in that world anymore. So I really don't know, but it was. So here's 7 Republican senators. This is again, I mean, they just use the same playbooks over and over. Planning stories, running to Politico, running to The Atlantic, running to the Washington Post, right? Over and over again. Let me first read out. Right. This is his response. But this is the correct response. Don, run for governor or something. Like, just do it. Like, you're going to win. Run for governor. I know Sean has told you already over and over again. I don't know why you're not thinking of it. Maybe you think you're more effective and, doing Triggered or something. Maybe you are. I don't know, But just run for governor, dude. It's obviously yours. So 7 Republican senators decided to plan a hit piece in Jewish Insider attacking J.D. Vance anonymously over his America First foreign policy views, which, by the way, 6 months ago, they were claiming he might not really have. It's, JD said a lot of bad stuff about Donald Trump 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, when he was in diapers. I'm pretty sure I heard him goo goo and gaga something of like, Trump is bad, goo goo gaga. So ridiculous. Anyway, J.I. reached out to Vance for comment on this story. In response, Donald Trump Jr. sent a statement that the vice president's office then referred to. Vance actually said, hey, I heard Jr. sent you back a response. Why don't you check it out? This is what it said. These 7 cowardly neocons attacking JD anonymously are genuine pussies. Does that not sound like something that would come right out of the mouth of the new and improved People's Pundit? That's the correct answer. If they really feel this way, then they should at least be man enough to put their names to these quotes. Trump Jr. told J.I. in a statement. The fact they are too cowardly to do that is exactly why I'm so happy that these rhinos are a dying breed in our party, whether they realize it or not. And this is something, I mean, that really sounds like it came right out of my mouth. It does. God bless you. God bless you. Because the truth of the matter is, and I never sound like this to be mean, I just am, that's most statisticians speak in generalities. And, I've always been a numbers guy, speaking generalities, right? And it's not that I'm like, every person isn't like that. But the fact of the matter is, I do look at them, things like that. And people who support these rhinos are literally going to be dead in 10 years. Like John Cornyn won't have a base in 5 to 10. He's probably going to get annihilated by Ken Paxton next year or this year, really. He'll be annihilated by him soon. He'll lose, or next year, but he'll lose his Senate seat to Ken Paxton because he doesn't have a base. I know damn well John Cornyn's is one of those 7 senators. I know it. All right. The rest of them, same deal. Tom Cotton, by the way, man, Such a disappointment. Like I told you, very much that kind of guy. I was a captain in the U.S. Armed Forces, and I served with this, and I did battle here, and I did battle there, and I'm super conservative. God, guns, and family, baby. Don't forget your cowboy hat and boots. Don't worry, I fit right in with you. They're so full of shit. Then they get to Washington, D.C., they take the Boeing money, they take the Northrop Grumman money, they take the Rand Corporation money, and they live high on the hog. They'll be a lobbyist after they get out of the Senate, and they end up being like that. Inflation running amok in America? Oh, that's just got to wait, because we got to pump out more billions for our friend Vladimir Zelensky in Ukraine. Like, that should be the litmus test right there. You sent money to Ukraine, you're a fraud. You're a fraud. The fact that they are too cowardly to do so is why I'm happy they're a dying breed. While private concerns remain, senators publicly defending the vice president's right to share his views and have dissenting opinions. Right, because they are genuine pussies. That absolutely is the correct way to characterize them. What else do you call it, folks, when they say something publicly and kiss ass publicly, but privately they stab you in the back? I mean, this is basic, like, stuff here. That's a coward. That's a coward. And they're no friend of yours. That's why I've come to agree with Donald Trump that the media, corporate media, is in fact the enemy of the American people in this country. There's no doubt they are. They intentionally feed them misinformation and disinformation. They intentionally lie to them. They intentionally get them to behave in a way and support policies that will directly hurt them. That is certainly not a friend. So tell me, let's get our sources out and let's look. What's an antonym, friend? Enemy. I mean, it's basic English language stuff here. So this doesn't require some huge philosophical conversation or discussion. It's the same playbook over and over and over. And I just don't know. Again, the question for me is, will these people literally die in time for this party to try to save the country from the bureaucracy? Because this country is in desperate need of an American version of perestroika. All right. So for people who don't know, Nikolai Khrushchev, he was himself a party man for years. Member of the bureaucracy, a bureaucratic man, career, card-carrying member of the Communist Party, true believer in the USSR. And yet, when he came to realize it wasn't working, and when he came to realize there needed reforms, Russia was more important than their ideology, he did what he knew would deal the most damage. Perestroika. The bureaucracy was preventing Russia from evolving. Why? Because the bureaucracy was filled. It was filled with ideological left-wing fanatics. Hardliners, man. Otherwise, they were purged from the bureaucracy. Unlike in America, we just let our enemies run entire agencies, like Kerry Lake is dealing with now. Her agency is filled with a bunch of left-wing American haters who want to push anti-American sentiment all over the globe. America's voice was supposed to be used for pro-American propaganda. It's propaganda, but it's pro-American. Help the world understand America's message. She's trying to turn it into something that promotes America first, promotes the concept and the values of a liberal nation-state system. And she is being thwarted by bureaucrats. She couldn't even become the director. That's not good. That is indicative of a permanent bureaucracy, a permanent government at the level of the former Soviet Union. And the only way to break these factions, we talked about this, and again, because I'm going to run out, it's already 3 o'clock, Do not forget to join book club. Do not forget to join book club. Nations and Identities. We're reading with Vincent Pecora. But we've read so many good books, and I've mentioned it a lot on the show. But one of them is Jack Snyder's Myth of Empire, and he explains how, at the core of it, when nations are about to overexpand, right? They're getting too big for their britches, and they're going to collapse. They push too far. They get, they spend too much money. They engage in too many wars. The bureaucracy is usually one of the primary perpetrators of preventing change and preventing a course correction. And that's what we got here. Is it's a scourge. It's a scourge on our government. It's a scourge on our country, not our government. Our country, the government's, it goes without saying. It's a scourge on our country, and it's going to kill us. And they don't care. People always ask me, don't they care about their own kids, Rich? Don't they care about their grandkids? Did the Russians? They're fanatics. We have fanatics in this country. Did the Russians? No. Did the Japanese bureaucracy during World War II? No. They were fanatics. Germans had the same issue, by the way. Fanatics. We need our own version of perestroika in this country. All right. Well done, Donald Trump Jr., because that is absolutely the right answer. All right. Leaving off, because I know I probably stepped on, I kicked every Trump supporter's dog today. All right. So I'm going to leave it on a good note for you guys that are watching if you're a Trump supporter. And I'm going to show you a clip that is weird, to say the least. We all know the United Auto Workers cowardly backed out, even though the members are super friendly to Donald Trump. Not Republicans. Not Republicans. Trump did amazing in Michigan for a Republican presidential candidate. But these people are not Republicans. In fact, they're ancestral Democrats, longtime Democrats. They backed Trump over Harris. In internal research done, all unions do this. I've conducted this research for unions in the past. And it's funny because Teamsters did it too. You remember the Teamsters poll? It is easier and certainly more accurate for these organizations to hire somebody like me and take the pulse of their membership. It is easier for me to do that for them than it is as a pollster trying to poll just unions as a demographic, right? We always ask, are you a member of your family or household, a member of a union? And if so, is it a private or public or both, right? Because they're just a smaller subset of the overall survey, but you will get a much, much more detailed and accurate response if you conduct that research for them. And it's also true that a lot of these people tend to be working class people and they're too busy to be taking long drawn out polls. But when the union asks them, hey, you're going to be contacted by Big Data Poll, we're doing some research for our members, we would really appreciate you doing it. They know it's kind of not a suggestion, but they're also just more willing to do it. So they do. And the UAW had, leadership that has long been in bed with the left wing of this country and then the Democratic Party. But the members very much like Trump's policy. They were Trumpy. Otherwise, he would not have won Michigan. And not only that, he would not have done as well as he did in certain parts of Michigan. Ditto for Pennsylvania with Teamsters, who have more than 50,000 members in that area. So they were in a bind, and they've been doing this for years. Basically supporting the political entity in this country that is directly hurting their members, right? It's been a problem for them for a long time. And now the leadership made a statement today. Here is Sean Fain, UAW president. And this is what he said about Donald Trump and tariffs when everybody else is talking about Trump's tariff policy hurting the American consumer, blah, blah, blah. It's going to cause a trade war, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, inflation returned to normal, by the way, in the month of February. But here's Sean Fain, who did not have kind words for Donald Trump in the past.
To see an administration finally address the unfair trade laws in this country. These laws have destroyed the American working class. They've destroyed communities in this country and virtually every state for decades.
virtually every state for decades. They destroyed the working class in this country. And by the way, he's talking about the policies of both parties. Even when the Democratic Party in the 90s claimed to be the party of the working class, claimed to be the party of the auto worker, the steel worker, they were full of shit. They didn't have a problem with George Herbert Walker Bush and his trade policy. He started, by the way. We always blame Bill Clinton because he just signed it and brought it in, the WTO, giving China favored trade status, all of that. We always blame Clinton for that. But the beginning of the end of history was negotiated under Herbert Walker Bush, including NAFTA. So, for Republicans out there who want to just only blame Democrats, it's just simply not true. In fact, a much younger Donald Trump back then opposed it, and he was against the Republican administration. Guy's been consistent for a very, very long time on this. All right, so that's a big boon for Trump. It is for the leadership to come around. That's a big boon, and it's a big boon for his predecessor, like J.D. Vance, if he chooses to get it. If, in the future, Democrats continue with their policy. All right, it's 3:06. We got a boogie. But before we do, go check out that interview with Fredericks I had this morning. And don't miss tomorrow for Scott. That should be a really, really good interview. Also, what is it? Tuesday, April 1st, I'll be on Turley Talks. Like I said, all the links to our sponsors, which we didn't read today because we don't have to today, are in the section below. And also, of course, is the Public Polling Project. Contribute to it if you can, and send it to people, like-minded people that want accurate and fair and well-conducted polling. Okay. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks. Nothing but love for you all. I'm going to go see how my son did on his driver's test, and I wish you a great rest of the day. All right, all the best. Don't fall for their crap, all right? And as always, deuces. Don't forget to like the videos and share them far and wide. The best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. Forgot all about that. Have a great rest of the day, guys.